Okay, welcome everybody to another presentation from an expert in our AGM video series. Delighted to say that today we're joined by Luke Butterworth, who is the current USA Junior National coach. He's also director of squash at the Greenwich Academy, and plenty more strings to his bow. So we're going to be chatting today about strategic thinking on court and how to help athletes sort of make some decisions, smart decisions for themselves. I think Luke's a perfect person for this. I'll hand over to him in a minute to give some further background, but he's produced a lot of good players over the last 10, 15 years in the States. And I consider him one of the top coaches in the world. So we're very lucky that he's given us his time today. So Luke, I'll pass over to you just to give everyone a little sort of brief, sort of further background on your squash journey, and maybe a little bit about sort of your coaching philosophy before we kind of get into the topic of the day.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's a nice, Thursday morning here, and yeah, my name's Luke Butterworth. Originally from Huddersfield, England, probably the greatest place on earth, for only those that live there. And I've been in the States now for just over 15 years. And the journey's gone left, right, and straightforward at times. But my background is I left school at 16 to play professional squash. I pursued that dream, and traveled the world, learning about all sorts to do with our sport, whether it was just the loneliness of being on the tour or meeting new friends and new cultures, but learning how wonderful our sport is that can be played in so many different ways. Throughout that journey, it led me to coaching, helping my friends on the pro tour between games, having that excitement of trying to help them win their match or whatever it may be. It was something that kind of always kept me passionate about, helping others. And then eventually getting an opportunity to come to the States for a coaching job was kind of the spark for me to really, take it by the horns as such, and give it a good go. Shortly into my stint in the US, I ended up in Paraguay, which was another story for another day. But I ended up being the national coach down there for a short period of time before the Pan American Games, where we went on to win a medal. And that kind of springboarded my career as such, really. It kind of set me off on a front foot, gave me so much more drive and motivation to be where I am today. And where I am today is, yes, I'm the director of Greenwich Academy, which is an all-girls private school here in the US, a very successful one at that. We're currently on a 8-time winning streak of the national championships, which is something I'm proud of. In my first year at the helm there, we actually lost, and they were on a 4-year winning streak. So it was all my fault, so I had to rectify it. And then alongside that, I wear two other hats, which is I run my own program. It's named LB Squash. It's a community program where I have boys and girls of all different levels, mainly tournament players at this point, all through, under 11, right through to your college players now. And then I wear my US squash hat, where I'm the head men's junior coach, and head to the World Juniors, British Junior Opens, events like that. So I get to see a wonderful array of talent across all boards of levels through that position. And then I was fortunate enough to head to Chile this past October for the Pan American Games for Team USA, which was a true highlight of my career. So that's kind of where I'm at as a coach, and I've had a lot of journey along the way. So hopefully I can give you some insight into different areas to help you. And I'm kind of an open book, definitely more so over a beer than over a Zoom. But if you feel like you would like to know more or ask any questions, you can find me online somewhere.
Probably too early for a beer, isn't it? We're recording this in the 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
So you got a cup of tea instead.
it's a very cup of Yorkshire tea, and I highly recommend it right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously that sort of that journey in itself is pretty interesting. I mean, I think we've known each other for probably the best part of 20 years ish. It's a long time, and obviously where you are now to where you were at the start is just such a massive difference. So you're obviously doing something right. So that's what we're sort of interested in, picking your brain a little bit today about sort of one area in particular, but not limited to that. But yeah, this focus of and it's in a not particular any stage either, whether it's high performance or if it's more grassroots, is when you're working with a kid and it's in a group situation or individual lesson. And normally, I'm assuming you'll do a bit of both with a lot of people. How do you start to make the kids sort of really understand the game, which helps them think for themselves when they're on court, making the right decisions, whether it's shots, it's a lot of this is a tactical thing, I think, but it might sort of cover into other areas of the mental side, or even technical sometimes if they've not got the technical ability to play different shots. And so how do you make them think for themselves on court? Because I see it a lot where kids might be very good in practice, and maybe it's a more closed situation. You open it up, or you make it more competitive, and the wheels come off a little bit. And the question you always you ask them why, and maybe the answer is that they don't know, because they're sort of maybe a little bit too programmed or regimented. And I think it's a really interesting situation. I think I've seen it a lot over the last sort of 10 years, where kids might look very good in certain situations, but not in others. And I was just curious
That
how you
sounds a
see
little
it.
bit like me when when someone feeds me a ball, I can hit a perfect straight drive, but when someone makes me move
But
it to go get it in a game, it all goes to pot.
you
No,
can hit
Amen.
you can hit a nice shot with a cold ball out of your hands. You mean that
You should
perfect
oh
drop
yeah,
shot?
no,
you
no.
should see me crush targets at the junior camps.
Yeah. No, I mean, so if I was to backtrack just a little bit and kind of before you even get to kind of like strategic thinking as a player, for me and my biggest thing for any program, coach, player, program, like group of players, communities, is kind of building an atmosphere of success. And to do that, it's got to be kind of a fun, vibrant atmosphere. I think if anything's dull and it's like, oh well, you hit that shot because of this or whatever, and it's there's no kind of aspect to it. Sometimes you lose the passion and the energy. Like my number one philosophy in squash is you have to build the passion and pass on the passion that you have. Like I'm a squash geek. I love squash. It's everything I do is all squash, squash, squash. I mean, apart from my second love, which is Huddersfield Town, probably my family as well. But I'm a squash geek, and as if you can build an atmosphere, for example, in my program when we have group sessions, I'll put music, just to get the sessions going. If they're doing exercises, it might be high energy music. It might be some stuff they like, whatever it may be. Just something just to say, oh, you know what? I love going to the courts. And that's something for all levels. That can be, your young mini squash kids who are coming to have a great time and laugh and joke on the courts. Then your kids who are kind of getting into it and then they're seeing, oh, that the tournaments are coming up, like maybe they're a little bit apprehensive. If they're in a positive, relaxed and comfortable environment, all of a sudden the messages that and the tough messages that you can give them, will resonate a little bit more. So once you've kind of created your atmosphere, then it's like the second thing is I go to accountability. Um, Squash is a very, very difficult game. And as you touched on, Chris, when you come out, between games and your coach tells you exactly what you need to do, well, what if it's not working when it's 4-4 or 5-4, or you're 5 love up and it's working, and all of a sudden they change their tactics and it's 5-all. Then what are you gonna do? Wait till you've lost the game and come out? No, it's like the second thing is accountability. And the way that I try to pass that on to the kids, and again, different levels, even from like that younger age, like a mini, I call it mini squash, like when they're introductory, they're bouncing the
Yeah,
ball on the racket, doing the sprint. Like I always tell them that squash is hard. It's fun, but it's hard. So like when you're saying, right, okay, now you're gonna do 10 sprints and you've got them doing like skipping and bouncing around, you're like, oh well, come and watch this video of the professionals that they do sprints, right? Then we go back to doing the fun stuff. And then they kind of slowly understand that, oh well, when he says sprint, I actually got to do them because squash is hard, right? And squash is hard, and I like squash, and I want to be good at squash and I have to do the hard work. And then you fast forward then to your elite level, and it's like, a lot of it is out there now, right? Well, I mean, we were touching off just offline there about like college squash and professional squash as such. Everything's online. You've got like your club lockers in the US. I don't know if you guys have club locker
Yeah, we use Club
in
Locker.
Canada,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like you've got a rating system. All your results are there. There's an element of pressure every time you have an exposure in a tournament because your results are there for everyone to see. So it's like you can always use that accountability to say, look, like, you know, this happened in this tournament, and we reviewed it and said, okay, well, every single time on your forehand side, you clip the tin on a volley drop, what have you done to change it? Have we had a lesson on it? Have you solo practiced? How many have you got the ball machine out and hit 1,000 volley drop shots? Like, what have you done to to rectify that error? And I think as you grow, and obviously you get to more of like a high school tournament level player, it if you understand the accountability piece, then you can understand like your improvement steps. And a lot of people, when they look at the rating, they say, oh well, I beat a player who was 0.5 higher. I couldn't care less, because you're looking too far ahead. You think you're there, but your rating goes like this, right? And it's almost like your improvement. Like if you look too far ahead, all of a sudden you go like that, and it's like you're kind of stuck. Whereas it's always thinking about taking these little steps to big success is really important. Um, so there are the two things that I definitely want to touch on today, is like building an atmosphere for success. Like we're all trying to grow squash, at all levels, right? So whether you're running an elite program, whether you're running a club program, or whatever it may be, it's thinking about how can I make it as positive possible, even down to simple stuff like I have a photo wall. So like we every any kid who comes in the program to play a tournament, you take a selfie with them, or anything fun, we put photos on the wall. So pretty much every kid we call it the wall of fame. And it brings them part of the community. And then every time they come to the courts, they see their picture on the wall and they see all the funny pictures. I've got a picture of my dog on there. Like it builds that community and that atmosphere. Like, oh, come here, new friend, come here. Let's have a look at the wall. So the atmosphere is really important because it makes them want to come. And then it's the coach's job to actually think, okay, well, to deliver that accountability piece, which is sometimes gradual. As you know, as coaches, you have to build a level of trust with players. Sometimes it takes a lot longer. Sometimes boys are a little bit more like, rough and ready. Sometimes girls are a little bit more reserved. So you're managing personalities, but slowly you can find ways to like, tap into what their level of accountability is and how much you can push and pull, and to get them to where they want to be, really. So that's kind of my two pieces on that bit.
You kind of just touched upon it, obviously, the kind of slight difference between boys and girls. And obviously, if you've coached a lot of kids, you know that there's obviously a difference. And you obviously work with a ton of girls being at GA. So is there anything that you slightly do different to get the girls involved or get them? Because obviously they're so much more hesitant to jump into that kind of like atmosphere, but it is super important to keep it exciting for the girls, because I feel like that's who we lose along the way, right?
Yeah. So I'm a very honest and direct kind of person, when it comes to when in my kind of my coaching like direction. And I feel like if sometimes girls are, I would say, way stronger than boys, like
We're
honestly.
smarter.
Debatable. But they're way stronger, and they are way stronger mentally. Sometimes like even with like how they can handle information. Like sometimes you tell a boy like you're not working hard enough, and the aggression comes, right?
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes you can tell a girl like you're not working hard enough, you're not doing this, and they can go one of two ways. They can sit and take it in, or maybe they get a little bit emotional, right? Um, but the delivery if it comes from like an honest place, it doesn't matter whether you're a boy or a girl. It's understanding that they understand what the message is coming from you is coming from a place of care, and that you actually want them to have this information to succeed. Like
Yeah.
I love the scenario when, as a coach, you go on court and you say, I just wanted just to show you this. And I know.
Yeah.
Okay, no
Yeah.
worries. I was just coming on because I care and I want to help you, move forward. But if you know, it's fine. Do you know? And then they'll say, no, okay, all right. All right, so please, I'm only doing this because I want to help you. So
Yeah.
again, with those relationships, whether boy, girl, or whoever, man, woman, young kid, it's having them understand that again, it comes from your atmosphere, from your passion, from the energy that you provide them. But the delivery is from an honest place because it's like this is the direction I want you to take, and I'm trying to help. And you again, you're building that through those kind of atmospheres that you're building too.
Yeah.
In I don't know if there's going to be any school coaches on here, but then in a school environment, it's really important that you don't individualize things, in my opinion. So I kind of have everything's a collective. Like in our school program, like I said, touched on in my like intro there, we're super successful. So every time we go to the national championships, like there's a target on our back, there's a lot of pressure to win. We've been the underdogs a couple of times and won the title. Like it's not just being like, oh, we're handed the title. Anyone who's played us in those finals matches and semi-finals, they've given everything to beat us. They want to be the team that beats Greenwich Academy. So every time you're going out there, there's a real big element of pressure, like, oh, are we going to be the team that loses? So it's really important that they feel the support of everyone in the program, and they need to have the support of everyone on the team. And if you individualize things and keep some players apart and do the rest of it, that's when you lose the disconnect of support. So I try to incorporate the full program. So when we have like different teams train together, we all come at the same time and do fitness or whatever it may be. So again, it builds that level of togetherness. Because as you know, we were all together, stronger together in anything, right?
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, so the team aspect is a big thing, whether it's an actual team like your GA or a club running a program. It's an individual sport, but working together obviously
Yeah,
that helps a lot, doesn't it?
absolutely. Like even from the my LB squash program, so I'll wear my general club program hat now. I've built a team of not only like coaches, squash coaches, but like fitness coaches, a mental health team, all the rest of it. So then each player in the program has places to go. And that doesn't always mean it needs to be under one roof, but it has to be people that you like if you've spoken to that you trust. Like in our area, I have a fitness coach who comes and he's part of the program. So our elite program and our what we call our academy. So our elite is your JCT golds in the US, like your top 32 players. I kind of do them on Mondays and Wednesdays, and they'll do squash for an hour and 15, and then they'll do 45 minutes of fitness with a fitness coach. And then they flip flop. So like we have two groups that kind of work entwined. And then the same with the academy, but they'll do like half an hour fitness and then an hour of squash. So like, and that's for like your younger kids, like from 9 to or 8 to 13, who are just getting into tournaments. They might be gold level or whatever, but they're just getting into it. But you're building a team so that you're understanding that there's people to help, like for as they get older. And again, we touched on this with the college stuff, but I worked with a lot of professional athletes. Like I have a girl that you may have heard of, Caroline Fouts, who she's super been. I've worked with her now for almost 5 years, 6 years. Came in, she was quite young, and she was all over the place kind of mentally. And I feel like I'm a great mental coach at times, but there's certain expertise that I just do not have. So that's when you have to delegate. And as the pressure got more, so I could help her when it was under 13, under 15, 17, kind of getting it. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, now you're playing professional tournaments. Now you're applying for colleges. We're trying to win national championships, US Opens, British Opens, and coming up against the best. There's certain levels of the mental game that I just can't. I wasn't there, right?
Yeah.
I didn't play to that level. I've built my coaching level by talking to a gazillion amazing coaches around the world, and I've listened. I've taken on board information that I perceive to be I like, that I think is going to help my players. There's certain information that maybe I put to one side, and maybe it'll come round. But the way that I've built myself as a coach is by listening and taking on information and seeing it with my own eyes. So then when it gets to a point where I feel like, ooh, that's not, I can't help with that. That's when I have a team for that. I have a mental health team or a mental coach team. I have my fitness group. And that team builds the trust for your players again from your atmosphere that you've built, the accountability. Oh, well, I watched you play a practice match the other day. You look pretty tired. What are you going to be like in a tournament? Well, have you been doing your fitness? All right, we'll go down to the accountability now. Okay, so my fitness coach, on Mondays and Wednesdays, have you seen player so and so the last couple of weeks? No. Okay, right. Let's have a little chat, because you're not being accountable for this sport that is hard, that you love. And unfortunately, to really love it, you have to do the hard work. Things like that.
So it all comes back to like the atmosphere and passion, number one, like creating that, and you use music and keeping it fun, and whatever level you kind of keep that the fun. And I bet you, I'm assuming that you have like Squash TV on and stuff like that in the,
Oh yeah,
kind of building that sort of like thing in,
yeah,
and then the accountability, and then once you've got those two things nailed down, the kind of the rest of it, the squash side of things almost is, you find that sort of comes more naturally with,
yeah. I think
running.
I think all of us as coaches, right? We're in coaching because we love squash and we know squash, right? We when it comes to like a technical thing, yes, some coaches are really, really good technically. Some coaches are really good tactically. And again, from my experience, I've talked to Australian coaches, Egyptian coaches, French coaches, South American coaches, English coaches, all these people, and everyone's different, but they talk similarly around squash, and then they talk completely different about squash. So when it comes to the squash piece, it's easy because you're delivering what you want to deliver from the information that you've either learned, you've done, all the rest of it. It's the how do you get players of all levels want to be there, right? Because once they're there, and like I said, with my fun stuff, like my photo wall, right? The little kids love the photo wall. And then you'd be surprised, even like the professionals who walk in, they look and they point, then they're on the wall. It's like, wow, you're on the wall of the game here, right?
Everyone's together.
Yeah, it's just a fun thing. And then, the music or whatever it may be, saying hello to people and making sure that they're okay when they walk in. Sometimes people who walk in, they're super smiley, sometimes they're not. All right, well, this is an environment that you want them to be in, whether they're happy, sad, mad, or whatever. And then once they're there and once they feel comfortable being there, that's when you explain what this sport is all about. This is not a sport where you can just, again, depending on what you want out of it. If you want to be a hit and giggler and just enjoy yourself, be a hit and giggler. But if you're a person who wants to go and improve and play tournaments and all the rest of it, then that's when you kind of explain, this is squash, right? And it's hard, but you can be good at it if you do X, Y, and Z.
Do you have a wall of shame as well as the wall of fame, or is that?
Yeah, there's only my picture on that one though.
Yeah, you're on that.
Yeah. No, there's no wall of shame.
Okay.
No wall of shame, unfortunately.
Keep it positive.
Yeah, it's only positive vibes only. And
Chris would have a wall of shame for sure.
I probably would. I probably would.
If I had a wall of shame, I'd probably be back in Huddersfield before I know it.
Yeah.
They'd send me back.
Yeah.
Well, that's all of that's really, really interesting. I think hopefully that's pretty valuable to some of our coaches and clubs and kids, parents, even hopefully a lot of people, different people are going to watch this. It's not just for coaches, but I think this will obviously be available for all of our Ontario members. So I think that's been really, really helpful, really useful.
Lauren, I could. You just mentioned parents there. I think that's also like pretty important thing to touch on. I often have varying levels of conversations with parents, whether it's someone who's just getting into it, someone who's going all at it, you know, elite level parents, all the rest of it. And again, it's the same message. It's like you're part of the support team, right? You got to make sure that your players or whoever appreciate the opportunities that you're providing them. But you've got to oversee it from the outside. If you're too involved, then that atmosphere piece that the coach is trying to build all of a sudden becomes a rift between you're going, I'm sending you, I'm doing this, versus them actually wanting to do it. So the opportunity that you're providing them, you can kind of, I always say, like, oversee it from the outside. And if you see that they're wanting to go to the squash and that they're coming home tired because they've worked really hard, then you know that they're not taking the opportunity for granted. And then if you feel like they're coming back and they're, you know, looking like bored, fatigued, and like pissed off, or sorry, mind my language, but whatever it may be, like, you know, then you can kind of like just step back a little bit, not say, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. And then that's when you kind of like, let's talk to the coach, you know, Sally's not feeling it right now. You know, are you seeing the same thing? What can we do about it? Versus like saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, because that you're the biggest part of parents is the support and the love, the providing them the opportunity and the support, but then the love that you're their number one fan and the number one supporter. And as soon as they kind of don't feel that, that's when I in my experience, I felt like there's been a little bit of rift. Like, some people don't like the parents watching them play, and I'm
Yeah.
like, it boggles my mind. I'm
Yeah.
like, I mean, my parents didn't really know what squash was. I played football growing up, but every time my dad actually did come when I started playing it later on in my, you know, teenage years, I'd serve out and he'd just remind me of it. And I just used to, we always laugh about it now. It's like you know, whatever. It was one of the memories. I'm like, I loved him, they being there, but then I'd always serve out and look at him. I'm like, oh, it's your fault. But yeah, it boggles my mind when kids say, I don't want my parents to watch. And then that for me, it's there's an alarm bell ringing that you're not a support system, then there's something quite off. So always remember you're overseeing it from the outside, um, and let it flourish, because is as we all know, there's highs and lows in anyone's development, whether it's academic, athletic, whatever. It never goes like that. It never goes like that. There's highs,
Yeah.
lows, dips, and all the rest of it. So you've got to be in there for the journey.
Wise words. Wise words, surprisingly.
Yeah.
That's great.
Hopefully people can
Yeah.
understand my accent. I don't know if feel like I brought it back a bit today.
You'll be
Well,
fine.
it's what happens when you speak to another English person, isn't it? It
Yeah,
always
I think so. And Yorkshire to
now
York.
then.
Mm. All
Lauren, have
right.
you got anything else, or should we? I think we're
No, I think that was great.
wrap up.
Yeah, that was amazing. I think it's good. I'm happy you touched on all that stuff. It'll be good for I think it's so it's an obvious thing to create like a great fun atmosphere, but I think especially if you've been doing it for a long time, it's nice to get a refresher.
Yeah,
You know
for
what I
sure.
mean? It's never too late.
And
Switch it up a bit.
there's so many different ways you can build an atmosphere. Like
Yeah.
you know, I do photo walls and music and stuff like that. That might not work for everybody. It might,
Yeah.
you know, it might even be like something like a comfortable environment, throwing bean bags down for them to lay around on and hang out, right?
Yeah.
I feel like when I first came to the US as well, it was very like transactional. It was like you're in for a lesson, you're out for a lesson. Like when we grew up, I think Canada's a little bit different just from my
Yeah.
experience of traveling there for tournaments. But the UK, you know, you even when you're younger, you play like a league match, and then you go to the bar and you're talking to adults and all the rest of
Yeah.
it. You know, it's very different an environment. But if you can get the kids to hang out a little bit as well, or the players, or the group, or the team, or the community, whatever it is, and again, it builds a positive place to be. And again, I could delve into ideas of how to do that, as many options, but everyone knows how to kind of create
Yeah.
a fun place to be.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay. That was great.
if anyone wanted to reach out, you know, I'm always accessible online. I'm kind of, my Instagram is LB Squash and all that stuff, and all the rest of it.
Follow like, subscribe.
I'm always found on there, and yeah, if anyone needs any questions answered, I'm an open book. That's how I got to where I'm at. So I asked lots of questions.
Yeah,
Good,
that's great.
good networker.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks for giving us your time this morning. I think yeah, it was great value, and maybe we'll do another one down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks a lot for having me.
All right.
Thanks for coming on.
See you later.
See you.